Welcome to the Building Tomorrow show. My name is Matt Nicosia. Today we're going to be talking to Devin Kulka, the CEO of the Kulka Group. You have a fascinating story. The way that you were introduced into this business and your sort of journey that you have taken, I think is extremely unique. Talk to us about how you started off in this business.
Sure. I graduated college, and my father owned a big construction company. I asked him for a job, and he was like, no. And I was like, what do you mean, no? He's like, I'm not giving you a job, but you got to prove yourself. So I worked 3 jobs, none of them in the industry, and I asked my father for a job a year and a half later, and he was like, no, again. I was like, what the heck is going on, man? And he's like, you could work for a subcontractor of ours. So I worked for a carpenter putting up insulated metal panels, and finally one of his supers went up to him and was like, hey, Jack, Devin will really learn more working under me. Why don't we bring him on board? And that's when I was really brought into Kulka, and I remember my first day of work at Kulka. Actually, my first day of work as a carpenter, one of the guys was like, can you go over and get that piece of plywood? And I came back with a 2x4, and they were like, you must be Jack's son. And I was like, how'd you know? And they're like, yeah, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't. So learned a lot since.
Yeah. So do you think that was part of like your dad's master plan, that he wanted to kind of put you through that test with a subcontractor that ultimately he would bring you into Kulka construction?
Yeah, I think he wanted me to learn how it is to work for another company. I think there's also things you gain by waking up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, to get on site by 6:30 in the morning, to be ready to work by 7. And coming out of college, it was probably really good for me. But I think he wanted me to earn it. And looking back, like, I love the fact that I was in the field before I was in the office. I love the fact that I'll still go walk on a job site and see people that I work next to or I reported to, and they know I was with them, right? So I think it's really important for anybody getting into the industry to do field work, even if you're going to school for architecture or engineering. Like, it's different in the field.
100%. So you were an assistant super at Kulka Construction.
So I was an assistant super at Kulka Construction, and about March of 2016, my father had a stroke, and overnight I went from an assistant super on a $130 million project to running the company. And we were doing about 200 million in volume at that time, and it was a sink or swim moment. And it was one of those moments that you look back and you're like, I got through that. I can get through anything.
How much doubt did you have initially?
I don't think you had time for doubt. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I was able to sit back and reflect and think about, like, what if it doesn't work out? It never thought to myself that it couldn't work out. It was just do whatever it takes, no matter what. And I had really good people that were around me to have my back. I had bad people too, and I was able to get rid of those. But there was also really good people that went out of their way to ensure that I was successful and the company continued to be successful.
So do you think you were supported by all of the people who have been with your father for, many, many years, or did you meet a lot of resistance? What did you get, more of?
So I think people stepped up to the plate. I think the upper level people, I did not get the support. The woman who was most closest to my father and spent holidays with us, she was like my father's assistant and bookkeeper.
Yep.
Her husband was a super for the Kulka Group, and they were both stealing from my father. So like week 1, I'm in the office going through the books, and they had taken hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I lost two people that we were relying on at the time right away. Um,
And you let them
the
go?
I let them go. I had to find replacements, and once I had replacements, I let them go. Um, Pursued them with the law, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Did you have a finance background? Like, how did you find that they were stealing from you?
It was it wasn't very well hidden. I think that when people are greedy, they just think that other people aren't going to see. And my father was very trusting. Like, these were family members. These were people that were over on Christmas morning, and so
Wow.
he didn't think it can happen. But unfortunately, it does happen.
All right. So this is 2016.
This is 2016.
So when I look at your website and when I looked into the company, right, there's Kulka Construction and then there's the Kulka Group. And at a certain period of time, it looks like you did like a total rebrand.
Yeah, so Kulka Construction was what we've been known as for 40-something years. About the time when I met Rob Menino, my partner, we rebranded into the Kulka Group. We did it for several reasons. One being, I wanted people to see we were a new Kulka, that we still had a lot of the same values and brought a lot of the same things to the table, but that we were a new company, a rebranded company. The second reason is we added service lines to what we did. We weren't just doing construction. And that was the beginning of getting real estate development going. We've always been doing a little bit of property management, but developing multifamily apartments, that was when that became part of the vision.
Got it. How much of your focus is on like residential or any type of development right now?
I think the company's focus is really construction. Everybody here right now is a construction person that is working for the construction company. I think I have Rob, who puts a little bit of time into development, but really I am driving a lot of the development deals that we're doing right now, and we've got 5 of them that we're working on.
Wow.
But we bring in co-GPs, partners that are doing it, have done it, and we're lucky to have some of the best partners in the world.
Did you have any experience in the development space before you did your first deal or no?
None.
So
YouTube and
Yeah.
Google, and figure it out. I remember we were working on our first deal. This is actually how Rob and I started working together. I was working on a hotel deal with a gentleman by the name of Joel Mason. He was a friend of my father's, and we were raising capital for this hotel deal in Long Island on the expressway. And Rob had a marketing niche, and he had a good knack for just business in general. So he helped me put together like the offering memorandum and the entire marketing package, and it was freaking awesome. And I remember people were like, thinking that we got it done by some big firm in the city. Meanwhile, it was me and him doing it, 2:00 in the morning on a Friday night, or while everybody was out, we were working on putting together this marketing deal. And we almost got it done. We needed to put together an assemblage, and one of the ladies backed out in the last second. She really had bad advice from, I don't know if it was legal counsel or family, but she backed out in the last second, and so the deal fell apart. But that was the start of Rob and I working together, and we've just been teaching ourselves, right? I think you have access to everything now that the internet is what it is. Like, if you want to learn it, you can, and you bounce off people that are doing it, right? I've been lucky enough to have those people and learn from other people around us.
Yeah, listen, I think if you have if you understand the real estate game in your area. You could put numbers together. You obviously could put together construction costs, right? So if you could put numbers together and you can make it presentable and it's a good deal, you'll get the funding that you need and you'll pull it off. I mean, that's oversimplifying it a bit, but I think the reality of a lot of people's first deals are put together the way that you described it, right? You're calling favors in, you're asking a friend if he can ask a friend to look at this model, and they send you back a little bit of an edit, and you just kind of put it together and you make it happen.
You find a way.
You find a way.
You find a way. That's the story of it.
So outside of the real estate development stuff, what does Devin Kulka do on a day-to-day as CEO of the Kulka Group?
A lot of what I do revolves around my people, putting them in the best position to succeed, ensuring that they are working in an environment that they enjoy working in, motivating them and pushing them to, work at a high level and in a high capacity. That's probably the most important thing that I do on a day-to-day. Other than that, it's driving business, it's relationships, it's politics. I'm very involved in the Long Island politics because it's so critical here where projects are so difficult to get approved.
Yep.
You've got to be in the mix, and that's something I learned from my father, just watching him my whole life. Knowing the numbers, right? Like, as a CEO, you have to know your numbers. You have to know your cash flow. You have to know what projects are more profitable than others and how to, get out of jams when there's a jam. Usually I have layers of people in front of me before a problem reaches my level, but I always know what's going on. I have a finger on the pulse, and when I need to step in, I step in. And it's not to undermine any of my people, because they're incredible, and more times than not, they're actually better than me. But, being that the company is the Kulka Group and my last name is Kulka, a lot of times people want to hear from me, so I do have to step in sometimes.
Yeah. So it looks like you spend a lot of time, like we said, on real estate development. You spend a lot of time on culture and working what appears to be side by side with Rob Menino on overseeing operations. You just touched on business development. And one of the things that I see a lot of companies struggle with is how to break a plateau, right? A lot of business and construction comes from reputation, word of mouth, or repeat customers. Some people have sales programs in place, but what I see as a very effective strategy is business development. That's a pretty vague term, but in 2024, how do you define business development, and how would you advise an owner of a company or a major player in a company approaching business development in today's day and age?
In an ideal situation, you want to be the first thought in somebody's mind because of your brand, because of your reputation. When they think I have a project coming up, or somebody tells them they have a project coming up, you want them to think of your company, which is hard. It's hard to get there. It's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of effort. It's client testimonials. It's a lot. But for me, I spend most of my time in business development on relationships, right? Helping people without expecting anything. Giving value to potential clients without expecting anything. I think that when you put yourself in positions and put yourself out there, eventually it's going to come back one way or another. You might not do business with somebody for years, but 4 years from now, that time will come, that opportunity will come. And it's about putting the puzzle together, right? Like, if I find out a project is happening and I want to bid that project, I go to LinkedIn immediately and I see who do I know that's connected with this person that can make an introduction. So it's so much better coming from somebody else making an introduction than cold calling and trying to get yourself in the door. So if you can find that connection, it will get yourself in the door. Once you're there, go take it. Like, don't even leave a doubt in anybody's mind that you're the best thing for that project. Bring value through the entire process. Go take that business. Don't let anybody else take it from you.
Two thoughts come to mind, right? First, if somebody has a project and they're looking for general contractors, the second that somebody that they trust says something good about you or your company, your chances of working with that person is exponentially larger, right? So good reputation is extremely strong. Second is there's a very old school, and I would say naturally, like there's a natural mentality to have a stance in pre-construction, right? Which is like, we're just bidding this job. So we're going to do only what we should be doing during this time, which was getting our numbers together, putting a proposal together, and sending it out the door. And a lot of estimators or owners of companies are a little bit bitter about being used for pricing. It happens to everybody. Some people get invitations to bid and spend a lot of time and thousands of dollars putting together estimates and bids when they may have never even had a shot at winning projects, right? That's all part of the business. But I think a major strength is having the ability to move that aside and looking at every estimate as like an opportunity to add as much value as you possibly can for that customer before you even get your proposal over to them. Like that, it is an opportunity to use that time to show them what you can do for them. And I employ general contractors and subcontractors to do a whole lot more of that moving forward. And I think that's one thing that sets you guys apart as well.
It's so important. The last project we won, we were not the most competitive bid, but we were the right partner, and they were excited to work with us, and we brought a ton of value, and they liked our culture. And I remember, like, towards the end, before the award was made, I was asking the woman who was the decision maker, is there anything else we can do to bring you value? And she literally laughed, and she was just like, no, like, you guys have done so much at this point. Let us just finish out our process. Like, no, you guys have went above and beyond. And it's a good feeling. And I could tell you that somebody else in her firm was telling me they had spoken to a competitor of ours about another project just to bounce off numbers. Hey, what do you think square foot numbers would be on this? And my competitor told them, hire us for pre-construction and we'll be able to give you that.
Yeah.
And then they called me after, and I was like, listen, high level, this is what it is.
Yep.
I'm very transparent. Like, I'll give you everything I have. I'll put it all on the table. Here are our unit prices. Here are our quantities. Here is everything, because we want to give you every reason to hire us. And if you don't, that's on you, right? I want to know we put our best foot forward as a company every single proposal. And if we don't do it, every single proposal, those proposals that we don't do it, those are the ones that are a waste of time. Those are the ones we should have never even won at.
Yeah, listen, I totally agree with the position that you should be being paid for your pre-construction services, right? Like we're general contractors or construction managers. Do we deserve to get paid for our expertise, our estimating skills, our databases, our softwares? Yes. But if a potential customer asks you for some rough square foot prices on a job, don't put a contract in front of them.
Yeah.
Just like you have to lead with value first, and then trust that it'll come back to you. And the good customers respect it and they appreciate it, and good customers will give you opportunities if they know that you're doing whatever you can within reason to help them make their project a reality. It's a wise investment to make, but you can't be bitter, and you kind of have to look at the situation a lot differently.
Absolutely. I
Yep.
think it all comes down to bringing that value. I used to have this mindset that you had to win projects by being the cheapest. It's not the case. There are smart clients that will appreciate the value. You still need to be competitive. I'm not saying be, you know, much higher than your competition, but if you're in the ballpark, people will pay a little bit more money for somebody or a team that's just checking every single box,
Yep.
or going above that and creating their own boxes to check.
Yeah, I think in this market, like everybody, anybody with some wisdom and chops knows that you're going to get what you pay for at this point. And that, from an owner hiring a CM or an architect or engineers, and general contractors hiring subcontractors too. Like any good GC is moved on from trying to hire subs who can't actually handle the work and use their low price, because they've been burned over and over and over again. Like the project suffers. So I think it's become evident that that's the way forward.
Definitely.
What does the future for Kulka look like?
Growth, continuing to add good people, more exciting projects. A lot of our work is Long Island and the outer boroughs, eventually more in the city. I think on the multifamily development side of things, we have the ability to develop all around the country due to some of our strategic partners. And so utilizing them and teaming up with them to build outside of New York, it's only a matter of time. We'll always be here on Long Island building here, and this is where our home base will always be, and I love this community, but there's a lot of opportunities outside of Long Island too, and they make it really hard to do it here. Like, there's a lot of red tape.
Yeah, there is.
It's really tough to get things approved.
New York in general is just difficult to build in.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. Where can people find you?
The KulkaGroup.com. You can check us out on LinkedIn, Instagram, on all the social media platforms, and anybody can reach out to me. I'm always like to make myself available and help people when I can.
Awesome. Thank you for doing the show, Devin Kulka.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies
Appreciate
and gentlemen,
it.
pleasure.